In every heartbeat, a hush persists. All that breathes must one day fall silent. Memento Mori, remember that you must die. A Latin admonition that is more than a phrase. It is the pulse of humility beneath civilization's roar. It stands as a lantern against the dark, urging us to lock eyes with the impermanence and wrest purpose from its shadow. Emperors and saints, warriors and poets, all kneel before that final veil. Across centuries, this whisper has sculpted destinies. In Rome's waning glory, a stoic emperor penned wisdom amid plague and war. In Assisi's meadows, a privileged youth stripped of silk, greeting death as a sister and singing of beggar's grace. Worlds apart, a Roman emperor and a humble friar were bound by one certitude: to remember death is to awaken life, to live justly, love fiercely, and carve meaning into the fleeting now. In 161 AD, Marcus Aurelius accepted Rome's battered diadem. A Stoic scholar pressed into the role of savior. The Pax Romana, or Roman peace, was splintering. Parthian steel glittered in the east. Germanic warbands harried the Danube, and corruption threaded through the Senate like rot through a cedar. Yet, no border threat equaled the unseen enemy that seeped into every forum and barrack. The Antonine Plague, smallpox by modern guess, moved a silent legion, scorching cities, crippling armies, and stealing, by some accounts, 1 in every 4 souls beneath the eagle's banner. For Marcus, the calamity was intimate. Friends, generals, tutors, and even the laughter of his own children were carried out on pyres whose smoke dimmed the Mediterranean sky. Each edict he drafted, each marble statue he passed, seemed carved from evaporated breath. Memento Mori had slipped from the maxime to the atmosphere. It perfumed the palace corridors and haunted the frontier camps where he rode by lamplight. Yet, the emperor did not flee death's gaze. He interrogated it. In the margins of dispatches on wax tablets tucked beneath his pillow, he composed notes that would later become the Meditations. There, he forged a living dialogue between duty and transience. Remember, you are a mortal soul in a rented body. Let justice be your citadel, compassion in your standard. The plague taught him that every laurel wilts, but virtue outlives marble. Commanding armies thinned by fever, he still chose clemency over vengeance, reforms over reprisals, reasoning that an empire's might endures only if its ruler first mastered himself. Thus, Marcus's reign became a lesson in philosophical courage. Surrounded by collapse, he refused despair. Instead, he wielded morality as flint, striking sparks of clarity. Power was sand, reputation a breeze, but each moment offered the chance to act with wisdom and mercy. In the crucible of pestilence and war, the Stoic emperor turned remembrance of death into a summons to live and to rule with unflinching grace. In the flickering lamplight of his campaign tent, Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, and restless insomniac, gazed into the hollow center of power and found it trembling with absence. The Antonine Plague's relentless toll, friends lost, children buried, and Rome's vitality drained, cast a shadow deeper than any battlefield. Each night, as pyres burned beyond the camp, he penned his meditations, a soul's reckoning with the abyss. Soon, you will have forgotten everything, he wrote. Soon, everything would have forgotten you. The ink itself seemed to whisper the truth, stark and unyielding, stripping away the illusion of permanence. His reign, his name, the empire's marble glory, all would fade into the dust of time. Grief clung to him, a silent companion heavier than his crown. The smoke-blurred faces of the fallen drifted through his dreams, their voices swallowed by the plague's unyielding hunger. As emperor, he mourned not just lives, but the Rome he could not save, its markets silent, its legions hollowed by disease. Death was no abstract foe. It was the weight of every unanswered letter, every unwritten law. And in this confrontation, Marcus stood bare before morality's truth. No throne could defy the grave. No wisdom could halt its march. Memento Mori was the pulse of his sorrow, each loss a reminder that all he held would slip through his fingers one day. What remains when all is forgotten, when empire and emperor are but whispers in the wind? Within that hush, his stoic discipline crystallized, the pain of loss becoming his teacher, urging him to face the fleeting nature of existence with unflinching eyes. This was no surrender, but a reckoning, a philosopher's heart wrestling with the void, poised to forge meaning from the ashes of despair. In the stillness of his mind, Marcus Aurelius sought refuge from the pious glow and the empire's growth. His meditations whispered clarity. To live is to align with nature's reason, and death, like birth, is his decree. All things are woven together, he mused, each life a thread in the cosmos' vast tapestry, fleeting yet eternal in its place. To fear the grave was to defy the world's order, to cling to shadow when virtue alone endures. Memento Mori transformed from a spectre into liberation, urging focus on the now, on justice, wisdom, and courage unburdened by what lies beyond. For Marcus, embracing death's inevitability was not surrender, but sovereignty of the soul, a philosopher's peace forged in the heart of chaos. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of a fracturing Rome, wore Memento Mori not as a shadow but as a laurel of resolve. If tomorrow is dust, today must be just, he vowed, each dawn a pledge to stand beneath virtue's unblinking light. No edict was penned, no battle joined, without the maxime's silent drumbeat. Death's certainty demanded honor's clarity. What justice survives when all is dust? Marcus answered with his life, a philosopher king who, certain of tomorrow's grave, made today a citadel of duty. Amid the empire's slow collapse, he embodied Memento Mori, not as surrender, but as a clarion to build, to love, to strive until the final breath. His legacy, written in ink and in deed, still whispers, "Live justly, for the dust awaits." Thus, while the emperor learned to rule by the shadow of the grave, far from Rome, another heart was being tempered by the same relentless of truth. The lesson of Memento Mori would slip his purple cloak and silken tunic alike, passing from the marble halls of power to the winding streets, where another was about to meet his own reckoning with dust and eternity. In the sun-drenched Assisi, a young Francesco di Bernardone, a merchant's heir and troubadour of bright days, glided through life wrapped in silk and song. Goblets rang, lute shimmered, and his laughter rose with the night air as he dreamed of knighthood's shining glory on Perugia's blood-dark fields. But a single fevered night undid pageant. Captured, imprisoned, then struck by illness, he lay shivering in a stone cell, his finery clinging like rags, the moon's cold light exposing how thin the veil between revelry and ruin truly is. Wealth could not buy another heartbeat. Honor could not bar the door of the grave. Yet, within that darkness, a whisper rose, not a summons to battle, but a call of the divine. The sickness that weakened his body awakened the spirit, turning his eyes from earthly banners to a higher standard. From the shattered shell of worldly ambition, Francis stepped onto a path where the truth of morality will guide every footfall, transforming reveler into saint. In the crumbling hush of San Damiano's abandoned chapel, Francis of Assisi, once draped in riches, now knelt in threadbare linen, his spirit stripped as bare as the peeling walls. Fever had purged his body. His father's wrath had severed every earthly tie. Assisi's merchants muttered lunatic where they once hailed golden boy. Amid that ruin, a single voice cleaved the silence. From the weather-worn crucifix came the summons: rebuild my church. It was less of an order of Mansory, but a mandate to rekindle the world gone cold, a vision rising from the embers of shattered ambition. And thus, kneeling among the broken stones, Francis met the grave not as an ending, but as a doorway. Out of ruin, he forged resolve. Out of loss, a boundless compassion. The spectre of dust becoming a guiding star, turning a discarded sun into a servant of renewal, whose simple rule would one day rebuild far more than walls. In the windswept meadows beyond Assisi's walls, Francis, now robed in humble burlap, welcomed the sister death, no grim destroyer, but the dearest of his kin, named and praised in song, a final note in the music of his creation. Memento Mori ceased to haunt. It unshackled him, turning each lungful of air into an invitation to love with reckless mercy. To Francis, dying was no severance, only the next step of a cosmic roundelay, as fateful as sunrise and sparrowfall. That vision burst into melody in his twilight hymn, The Canticle of Creatures, one of the earliest works of Italian poetry, where every stanza crowns Sister Death with the same reverence given to Brother Sun and Sister Moon. Be praised, my Lord, true Brother Sun, he intoned, and true Sister Moon and the stars, and praise be to you, true Sister Death, from whom no living soul can flee. Each line exalted the fragile splendor of all that slips away, folding morality itself into praise. By enthroning Sister Death with the canticle, Francis transforms the very notion of the grave into liturgy. Death became a hymn, not a hush. In voluntary poverty, he uncovered inexhaustible riches, earth's heartbeat under bare feet, laughter shared like bread, and the divine ember outlasting ash. Memento Mori was his charter of freedom, swapping fear for a daring tenderness toward every fading thing. He rebuilt chapels stone by stone, founded a brotherhood of wandering joy, and trudged barefoot through winter frosts, living as though every thick of time were a coin to spend on goodness. His courtly salute to Sister Death, immortalized in the canticle, became a luminous defiance, to stare the grave full in the face, and answer with love that burns bright in the vanishing instant called now. Francis of Assisi, pauper saint in weather-worn linen, lived as though every heartbeat whispered, "If all ends in dust, let every breath be praise." Memento Mori was his perpetual refrain, a rhythm that kindled boundless charity. In Umbria's sunlit fields, he preached peace to feuding clans, his voice a balm where steel met steel. Among lepers he knelt, washing wounds with hands that once clasped coin, beholding in their suffering the hidden countenance of God. The Franciscan Brotherhood, birthed in radical poverty, carried his charge: serve, love, and live as though the grave's shadow only sharpened life's flame. No moment proved too small for thanksgiving, no creature too humble for his care. The canticle of creatures echoed through his deeds, each act another stanza of gratitude for the vanishing now. Memento Mori became his spur, knowing the dust awaited. Francis poured his soul into every embrace, every whispered prayer, and every barefoot step across the frost-bitten earth. Thus, his life unrolled as a living psalm, proclaiming that love can blaze brighter than the veil of morality. What praise survives when flesh returns to soil? Francis replied with his days, each radiant offerings stitching the eternal to the temporal. In the unadorned splendor of service, he embodied Memento Mori, not as lament, but as vow, to press love into every instant and to make each breath a hymn that resounds something beyond the closing of the tomb. In the marble corridors of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, emperor and soldier philosopher, held Memento Mori like a compass, steering justice through plague-lit nights in the thunder of frontier wars. Centuries later, upon the windswept hills of Assisi, Francis, the saint in simple linen, breathed the same maxim into song. Each exhalation a hymn of love sprung from poverty's cradle. Marcus met morality with stoic resolve, his meditations a lantern of duty, every edict a stance against oblivion. Francis responded with a mystic's ardor, his canticle of creatures praising the fragile blaze of each being, each act of service a gentle defiance of the grave. Opulence and simplicity, empire and meadow, titles and eras dissolve beneath death's impartial gaze. In Marcus's measured decrees and Francis's radiant mercy, Memento Mori weaves a single thread. Morality is not a cessation, but summons, a call to impress meaning upon the fugitive now. Memento Mori, remember you must die, whispers through every century, a truth steady as the stars. In Rome's marble chambers, Marcus Aurelius met that whisper with stoic resolve, letting each decree burn like a lamp against encroaching dust. In Assisi's sun-washed fields, St. Francis greeted Sister Death with open arms, turning every breath into a hymn of love. Emperor and beggar, opulence and poverty, both bowed before morality's impartial throne, proving that the great equalizer spares no soul, yet shapes every purpose. Across eras, creeds and crowns, the maxim binds us all. It asks no wealth, no title, only the courage to face the grave and seek what endures. Marcus's measured wisdom and Francis's radiant service still echo, not in marble or gold, but in the choices that outshine the ash. Memento Mori urges us to rise, to act justly, love deeply, praise creation's fragile glow before the last grain falls. What legacy resists the dust? The answer waits in your next breath, in your next deed, your chance here and now, to live as though today is all. Thank you for watching.